Welcome everyone to part 2 of this, longer than expected episode that we had planned. But yeah,
We have to do it for the people considering we missed a week for our mock draft. So
absolutely, absolutely. So this is a football-centric episode, if you will, since it's part 2 technically. First part we talked about the NBA, and now we're going to talk about football. So we have a bunch of shit to talk about. We have Aaron Rodgers traded to the Jets. We have Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts re-signing with their respective teams. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the NFL draft night one. Jurg, let's actually talk about Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson first.
Yes, sir.
I believe Jalen Hurts re-signed. So Jalen Hurts re-signed first with the Philadelphia Eagles. It was 5 years, $255 million. I think largest deal in NFL history.
Yeah, for like 5 days.
Yeah, and then of course, the Ravens, surprisingly, they got the deal done with Lamar Jackson. 5 years, $260 million. That ends the saga that we have gone back and forth with. Talk about Jalen Hurts. This is a no-brainer. They found their franchise quarterback. He has surpassed expectations. I know a lot of people were always skeptical of him when they drafted him initially a few years ago. Just like, Jalen Hurts, huh? And of course, they gave him the reins, and he just took the ball and just ran with it. He is legitimately awesome. The Eagles are the best team in the NFC. He is top 10 quarterback, Jalen Hurts. What do you think?
Man, put me on the spot. I mean, I would say so. Yeah, like I think he's in the lower tier in terms of like really great. Again, for people, I'm assuming people listen to part 1 before part 2 here. I said a whole thing about us. We're labeling guys as stars and superstars way too early. Yeah. I like Jalen Hurts. I think he's a great player, great leader. He deserved this contract. He showed up in the Super Bowl when it mattered the most. I'm not willing to definitively call a guy a star yet. But because of the level of quarterback play in the NFL, because certain guys dropped off last season, I don't mind calling him a top 10 quarterback. But he played, I'll say this, he played like a top 10 quarterback last season. He needs to do it again.
Yeah, and I think he will. I think he's earned our trust. And look, most importantly, he showed up in the Super Bowl. He was awesome. But it was a no-brainer for the Eagles to re-sign him. No-brainer. And look, man,
it would have cost way more if they had waited.
Yeah, and in a relatively weaker NFC, I mean, come on now. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. They've lost some pieces, but they've gained some pieces here in the draft that we'll talk about. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, he's awesome. Eagles made the right move here. They got it done. Shout out to them. I think they're the favorite in terms of like coming out of the NFC. I think you'd agree. I don't want to like spoil anything, but I think you'd agree. But yeah, what'd you make of the whole re-signing?
With Jalen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it made sense. I think the thing with Jalen Hurts is that, like I said, quarterbacks above any other, I mean, every single position in sports, but quarterbacks especially, they look at the most recent deals and it's always about going up. And I think the Eagles understood. Howie Roseman is fantastic when it comes to understanding where the league is going. And I think he understood, god dang, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow got to get paid here really soon. And I got to get my franchise quarterback locked in. And it's still a great amount of money. But if he had waited, good Lord, the amount of money Jalen Hurts could have potentially gotten capitalized. This is generational wealth for a guy. And again, I know, I feel like sometimes just saying you want to see more from a player is criticizing them, but it's really not. I love what I saw to Jalen Hurts last season. He really proved a lot. I still think there's some improvement that needs to be done.
For sure.
But it's a great thing. And now, like I said, I want to say I said this during the draft episode. There's one of two ways to build around a quarterback. Either you get them on the rookie deal and you spend the money everywhere else around them, or as a general manager, you pay your quarterback, and then you need to rely on yourself. You need to rely on your scouting department heavily in order to hit on draft picks, to continue to bring in guys at great value contracts at various positions. And good Lord above, the Eagles are amazing at doing that.
Yep.
So I think this is a thing where you paid your franchise quarterback, and now I think the pieces are there for. I would be shocked if the Eagles don't compete this season, but I don't think that would be on Jalen Hurts unless he regresses specifically. If Jalen Hurts has a good season like last year, is a little bit better, and the Eagles aren't as good, that's on the roster construction because Jalen Hurts has proved himself. It's now on the rest of the team to get built properly. But if there's a GM I want to do that for my team, I can't think of too many other guys I would want above Howie Roseman in the NFL. He's really great.
Absolutely. And that leads us to Lamar Jackson re-signing with the Ravens. Finally, 5 years, $260 million, only $5 million more than Jalen Hurts. Jurg, I got to say, I'm surprised this deal happened, but then again, as time progressed and as I saw certain teams pivot and as I saw certain collusion amongst owners, I feel like there was no other choice but for this to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed like no team was going to trade for him, and I don't know what the reason was. I think the Jets would have been interested, but I think the Ravens pivoted a little too late here, and then the Jets were kind of had to move on to Rodgers, and I think once the Ravens kind of made the decision, the Jets were too deep with the discussions with Rodgers and the Packers. So I don't want to fault the Jets because I know people are going to go off on them, but no brainer for the Ravens, no brainer.
This guy's the franchise.
He's the franchise. I'm glad he got paid. 2 black quarterbacks, highest paid quarterbacks in NFL history, rightfully so, well deserved. I'm so happy for them. The Ravens, them clowning around a little bit. You still don't have my trust. I know you got the deal done, but you've clowned around too much. I'm so happy for Lamar. He is the Ravens. He makes them what they are. They also, we didn't talk about this, they signed OBJ, 1 year, $18 million. We'll talk about the draft pick actually a little later because we're going to talk about the draft. But look, that division, the AFC North, right?
Yeah, it's a 2-team division.
It's a 2-team division. It's the Ravens and the Bengals. But look, you need to re-sign Lamar here. I don't know what the backup plan would have been if he didn't sign the contract, and maybe he just sits out the year and just doesn't play.
I'll tell you what would have been plan B. They would have been a 3-win team with Tyler Huntley.
And then Caleb Williams. But I'm just glad he got his money. Again, I think the Ravens, barring injuries, and I know they've kind of dealt with injuries over the past couple of years, they're a legitimate playoff team. Like they're always a playoff team. I love their coach. Harbaugh's great. I think their defense. Ooh, okay. I think their defense is great. OBJ, 18 million is a little too much, but I think it was a kind of a desperation move, and I think it's a little bit like, we need some wide receivers. I mean, if you pick some wide receivers in the draft before, last year, I think, and this year, I know Rashad Bateman kind of was the pick, but he hasn't kind of panned out the way he should have. Still, they haven't done enough to surround Lamar with decent offensive options and weapons. So, yeah, I mean, this is the first step. You got Lamar. You have OBJ. We'll get to where we think the Ravens will end up, down the line when we talk about the NFL when it comes back. But I'm just glad he got paid. Like, Lamar's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He doesn't have an agent yet.
The fact he got this deal, I just want to shout out. I just want to shout out here, Chris. Jalen Hurts' agent Nicole Lynn, who I think is the head of the NFL side of things at Clutch Sports.
Yeah.
A female agent negotiating that deal for him, and Lamar getting his deal without an agent. But I'm sure he has representation, but basically without an agent. The 2 richest deals in NFL history right now belong to someone with a woman agent, a phenomenal job by her, and a guy who was self-represented with probably some partially hired representation. Big W for NFL players right there.
Huge.
And that I just want to shout that out real quick because it's very much deserved.
Yeah, for sure. Lamar resigns the Ravens, I think, for the next 5 years. That's their guy. They'll always be in playoff contention, I think, just barring injury.
Can I say one last thing, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead.
What I just said about now the 2 ways to build your team with your quarterback. Hey, Baltimore, it's on you now. No excuse. I just praised Howie Roseman and the job he's done and the amazing job he did in the first round of this past draft. This on you now, boys. People always love to blame the one player that gets paid the most. Why do we never point out the coaches and the general managers that fail these guys? Why do we always give a pass? Why do we never always hit to that first? I'm saying this right now. This is not the same Baltimore Ravens decision-making apparatus that it was maybe even Lamar's rookie season or just before he took over. Ozzie Newsome is not the main guy there anymore. It's someone else that's the general manager. I want to say maybe it could be DaCosta. Maybe I'm confusing general managers here, but I know the Ravens general manager is not the same guy who it was years and years before. The Ravens have not had a spotless draft record over the last couple of seasons. They've whiffed on a lot of picks, even since Lamar got there and even just before that. So I'm saying this right now, Baltimore, no excuse. We just saw the Eagles' amazing first round. We've seen what they've done in several drafts in a row now. This is on you. Step your game up for your franchise quarterback. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, well said. All right, let's move on over to the trade that happened a little too late, but it ended up happening. Aaron Rodgers officially to the New York Jets, Jurg. And the trade package includes, so Aaron Rodgers goes to the New York Jets in exchange. So basically what it was is that, so the New York Jets had the 13th overall pick in this year's draft, and the Packers had the 15th overall pick. They swapped that in this deal. So the Packers drafted 13, Jets moved to 15. They also get a 2023 second-round pick which would be number 42 because the Jets have 2 second-round picks this year, a 2023 sixth-round pick, and a conditional 2024 second-round pick that becomes the first if Rodgers plays 65% of the plays this season. And I think the Jets also got a 2023 fifth-round pick from the Packers. So that's the deal. Initially, when I saw this deal, Jurg, I was like, man, did they give up the 13th pick? And then I just read that they swapped they swapped 13 and 15. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Kind of fucked us because I think all the offensive tackles were taken last night by the time the Jets were picking, and they kind of need some offensive tackles. But I would say the package was what I expected. I think what a lot of people were kind of meh about was the conditional 2024 second-round pick that becomes the first if Rodgers plays 65%, because it's like, it might have been slight overpay at that. I mean, a lot of people think, well, it doesn't really matter because, if Rodgers plays that much, then we're going to end up being a decent team. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just always skeptical and giving draft compensation. And Aaron Rodgers is a bit old here, and you just never know with the off-field drama. I was a little bit, But again, look, what can I do? The trade was going to happen regardless. They were it was Rodgers or die for them. I don't think either team had leverage. I just think both teams want to get it done. But
yeah,
I mean, if it's a conditional thing and it's 65% of the snaps, whatever, I don't care. But yeah, let's talk about this. As a Jets fan, yeah, I think Dame actually thought it was a slight overpay when he saw it. But I think as Jets fans, bro, what we have to cope with is that we finally got a quarterback. Yeah. I mean, we at this point we just kind of have to live with it. I know it's it might have been overpay, but better than fucking Zach Wilson. So we have Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, we kind of talked about the fit. Now, Jurg, a lot of people, their playoff odds, their Super Bowl odds went to 4th. They're the 4th favorite betting-wise. That is wild because, I don't know, I still don't, Aaron Rodgers is great, but I also don't trust him as much as other, I don't trust him as much as Mahomes and Brady and all that. But yeah, so looking at it from the Jets' perspective, obviously an upgrade on QB. The Jets' defense was a standout for them this last season. They helped win them a bunch of games because the Jets could barely score some games. I think the defense is there for the Jets. Spoiler alert, they went defense for the draft. And I think for the offense, I think it's pretty good. I think the offense is pretty good. So he has Garrett Wilson standout. They signed Alan Lazard, familiar with. Those two are standouts. They kind of got rid of Elijah Moore, but they did sign McCole Hardman.
Yep. Still have Corey Davis.
Yeah, you still have I forgot about that. Still have Corey Davis. I think for the wide receiver core, the Garrett Wilson should be their number one. I think they're set on the wide receiver core. I think it's very versatile for them. I think Aaron Rodgers has a bunch of wide receivers with different skill sets that he could play with and could have kind of maneuver with the offensive play calling because Nathaniel Hackett is still there. So I think wide receiver wise, they did have a chance to take JSN from Ohio State last night. They didn't, but I think they think that they're good with the wide receiver core. And to be honest, to an extent, I'm pretty satisfied with them. I'm pretty satisfied with the wide receiver core. I forgot they had Corey Davis, man. He's still on the team. But also Denzel Mims for what it's worth. Who knows? But yeah, you have Breece Hall, Michael Carter. Again, I don't know how Breece Hall is going to look after that injury. But I think their offense looks decent for them to be competent enough to make some noise. It's kind of a wait-and-see approach because it is the Jets. You just never know with that team. They're going to be better, obviously. But I will say this, the AFC's kind of stacked, right? The Bills are still the best team in that division. The Dolphins have made some moves this offseason. Then, of course, still Kansas City Chiefs. You have the Bengals. You have the Ravens. Jaguars are on the come-up. Chargers are always going to be there. It's a death conference for them. So 4th in terms of Super Bowl odds is wild. I think the Jets are going to be better. I do think they can make the playoffs. I think that's the thing. They're going to be a playoff contender. I think they're going to be a playoff team. Early prediction, they're a playoff team. And for the Packers, I believe, this had to get done. They're going to go through Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love, they're going to give a year for him. They're going to have a year tryout. I think they'll make a decision on him next year because I think he's due for an extension soon or something. But you never know. I think they just had to move on from Aaron Rodgers. Now they can kind of start the rebuild. They got some decent draft compensation to kind of start that rebuild or to build upon that rebuild from the Jets. So had to happen for both teams. I don't know how Green Bay is going to look going forward. I don't think they'll be awful just because I think they have a decent roster. But, of course, Aaron Rodgers isn't there anymore, so I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So, yeah. Yeah, let me know what were your thoughts on this trade, Jurg, when you
It's
saw the
gonna
trade package.
it's gonna feel great to see a Packers team not have a franchise quarterback and only win 5 games for once. It's gonna be a good thing to see in this world. Um, so the trade package itself, the thing that kind of surprised, I knew the Jets were never it was never going to be a case where the Jets were going to give this year's first round pick and not get something significant back. That was
Mhm.
never going to happen. So the swap, I was kind of like yes, in theory, it kind of costed you with the offensive line, but I actually think this draft, there's still good offensive linemen you could pick up early in the second round if the Jets
Right.
want to consider trading up. Cody Mock is still there. Mathieu Bergeron is still there out of Syracuse. I think he's a really underrated tackle. I think he's very good. I think the team that could get him will be it'll be good. There's some
You're,
also. I don't know if you guys need more tackle or interior offensive line.
you
Like
have Osiris, your boy Osiris, right?
Cyrus Torrance is there. Steve Avila is there. One of the 2 overdrafts of our mock draft, John Michael Schmitz is there. So good job with that name. But like, there's still a number of guys that you can get if you're still worried about offensive line here early in the second round and maybe even going into the third round. So I'm not necessarily worried about that. I get why people are trying to make a thing when it comes to the first round pick next year. Dude, at the end of the day, you give up a first round pick next year because you believe you're going to make the playoffs next season, because you believe that as an organization, you should be better than what you were this season. I want to give some context to this. The Jets quarterback room, and yes, I was actually looking this all up while Chris was talking.
Nice.
The Jets quarterback room, I'm talking about Joe Flacco, I'm talking about Mike White, and I'm talking about Zach Mother-loving Wilson.
Literally.
15 touchdowns and 14 interceptions last season. That is 2 more interceptions than Aaron Rodgers threw in what was a down year in his career, which, by the way, Aaron Rodgers played with a bad foot and a bad hand last season for chunks of it. And they threw 15 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers threw 26. Aaron Rodgers threw 11 more touchdowns. Now, I will be granted, and that, yes, I know not every single extra point is guaranteed. So let's just look at the 6 from each extra touchdown. Aaron Rodgers threw 66 more points than the entire Jets quarterback room last season. The Jets lost their last 5 games of the regular season by like 50 combined. You're telling me that Aaron Rodgers doesn't help this team make the playoffs last season? You don't know football. You think Aaron Rodgers doesn't help this team this season? You don't know football. On paper, this is an improvement. If you place Aaron Rodgers on last year's Jets team that had a top 5 defense, that had the offensive rookie of the year at wide receiver, that had who would have been offensive rookie of the year had he never gotten hurt in Breece Hall, that now have actually a little bit better and extra depth at the wide receiver than they did last year in terms of, a couple more proven guys in there. I'm not the massive Alan Lazard fan, but just because the continuity thing, that could definitely help, especially if he's not the number 1 this season like he was going into last year for the Packers. So you have Lazard, you have Mecole Hardman, who is basically just a veteran Elijah Moore. Let's be real here. And then you have Corey Davis, who's just a steady, reliable veteran. He basically is now the 4th option, which I think might actually suit Corey Davis a little bit better, being more like under the radar kind of guy. I do think the Jets should probably look at running back in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, I agree.
Just for insurance, because honestly, man, I'm not in love with Michael Carter as your second running back.
Same.
He just doesn't do it for me. So I think if you expect Breece Hall to maybe take a step back because of the injury, getting a running back in the 3rd or 4th round wouldn't be a bad idea. And I think there's some decent running backs in this draft class that could certainly help. I don't think he'll be a 3rd round guy. I think he'll be drafted way earlier. But the running back out of UCLA, Charbonnet, Chris, I've seen tape of this kid. He's a stud. I think he's going to be a steal in the 2nd or potentially 3rd round if he falls that far by a team. I think he's extremely talented, can hit, just bounces off defenders and can spin when he gets to the next level. This kid is going to be extremely talented. I think a really great pickup for a team. But I think if you're the Jets, you take what you can get to increase quarterback play, because at the end of the day, and we kind of talked about this during the mock draft, between, myself, Dame, shout out to our guys, Stu and Justin, who came on. The position. What is the position that every team will pay for? What is the position that every team will trade up and draft for? What is the position that every team will draft number 1 for if they need it? It is quarterback. And at the end of the day, yes, maybe he's not the same as what he was in his prime years, but you still got at worst, top 10 quarterback in this league. At worst. The Jets have never had a top 10 quarterback in franchise history at any juncture. This guy comes in. I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers has thrown less amount of interceptions in his career than Joe Namath did in like a span of however many seasons you want to put it. I think Aaron Rodgers is easily the most efficient quarterback the Jets have ever had. He's the most efficient quarterback of all time. I think last season I think last season he just finally went over 100 career interceptions. You know how hard that is? He's played how many years and he just went over 100 plus interceptions? That is how efficient he is. He like, obviously it'll be a learning curve. These guys need to get used to each other. I'm not saying the Jets are a definitive whatever favorite. I still pick the Bills as my favorite in the AFC East. And in the AFC, I think obviously the Bills and the Chiefs, and of course, I was riding the Bengals all of last season. I think the Jets deserve to be considered the 4th team in the AFC right now.
Okay.
And I think the Jets are preseason my favorite to be second place in the AFC East. I think Aaron Rodgers makes that team the second best team in the AFC East. Like it's just a simple numbers thing. They lost their last game by 50 points. You're bringing in a guy that's 66 points better than all your quarterbacks combined last season. This was a great deal. You sacrifice first round picks to get this. What have I always said when it comes to trades, Chris? When we talk about did the team potentially give up maybe quote unquote too much in sports, you have to give up something to get something. This is not EA Sports' NFL Madden, which is a terrible program game every year. This is not NBA 2K, where you can trade 7 second-round picks to get a first-round pick, and then you turn that first-round pick to 2 first-round picks, and then you trade like 4 random things for a superstar. No, this is real life. You give up something to get something. The Jets gave up a very reasonable package to get Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is something. If they had tried to do this last year, the Jets would have had to give up 3 first-round picks. If anyone had tried this last year, it would have been 3 first-round picks for Rodgers. Basically, a little more than the Russell Wilson package. You're telling me, let's be real here. You still kept your first-round pick. Yes, I know you may have lost the guy that you wanted, but you still kept your first-round pick. And you traded away a second-round pick this year and a first-round pick next year. Let's be real. It's probably going to end up being an official first-round pick. You traded a second and a first for Aaron Rodgers. I'm supposed to be convinced that they lost that trade? Stop. I think it was good, and I think the Jets did what they had to do. They believe they were a quarterback away. You get that quarterback. In this league, we could say that in the playoffs, the defense and the running game make the difference. You could say this, that, and the third. At the end of the day, what is the only position, Chris, that we say blank team is such position away? It's always quarterback. Have we ever said a team is a running back away? Have we ever said a team is a wide receiver away? I mean, the Baltimore Ravens are trying to prove that statement. Have we ever said a team is a number 1 corner away? Have we ever said a team is a defensive end away? Have we ever said a team is a kicker away? I mean, they should be a kicker away. At the end of the day, it has always been a team is a quarterback away. I love how people always say you have to get the quarterback, and suddenly it's a quarterback you don't like personally, and you don't like the trade. We need to stop. You may not like Aaron Rodgers personally, a lot of people, but he is miles ahead. On his worst day, Zach Wilson is not allowed to tie up Aaron Rodgers' shoelaces on Aaron Rodgers' worst day versus Zach Wilson's best day. And it's not even close.
And you know what? To be honest, I think this is good for Zach Wilson. I know he grew up idolizing Aaron Rodgers. Now you get to like kind of sit back and kind of learn from him. So could be a good thing for him. Could be a good thing.
I think it might be a little bit of a culture shock for Zach, admittedly, Chris, because, Zach Wilson trying ayahuasca for the first time and,
that's true.
All that, this, that, and the third. I think that might be a little bit tough for him. And, the difference between immunization and vaccines, like that might be a little bit tough for Zach Wilson to adjust to it, but I think he'll figure it out.
Yeah. Not even a laughing matter, to be honest. But this leads us to the NFL draft. Night 1 that occurred last night, by the way. I will say, I thought there'd be a lot more movement in this draft. Trades-wise, not even just trades-wise, but like maybe players-wise and all that. And some trades did occur, but, you kept hearing about Hopkins noise. Where would he go? What would happen with some of these players, man, like to tweet like eyes emoji, and like nothing actually happens, bro. And it pisses me off.
It's also like the way that it was shot sometimes. Like there were moments where the camera was on a guy that they were not going to get selected at that pick. Like, can we improve the camera selection a little bit here, guys? Come on.
Yeah, I will talk about a certain someone. But yeah, all right. So Carolina Panthers on the clock for number 1. I hate Shams, by the way, bro. Why did you have to spoil this shit? Because I really think it was a toss-up between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. But Panthers end up going Bryce Young.
If you want to be shocked during drafts from now on, you got to turn off Twitter.
Yeah, at that point, I was like, I'm getting off. I don't want to do this shit. So Panthers take Bryce Young at 1, and then Texans take CJ Stroud at 2. I know you guys were saying, like, oh, maybe the Texans shouldn't go QB because next year's a QB draft. But they go CJ Stroud. Yeah, these are the first 2 quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks that are off the board.
As they should.
I think ultimately, even though we didn't think the Texans should go QB, we're not surprised here.
Yeah.
They go CJ Stroud. This is their future QB. This is their QB of the future going forward. 3 was supposed to be the Cardinals pick.
This was a shock.
So this was a shock because I do think the Cardinals, they were going to trade it for sure. I think they were always going to kind of be in the business of trading the 3rd pick, but they ended up trading with the Houston Texans. So Arizona traded back, and I believe they got the 12th. No, the 6th pick.
No, they got the 12th. They got the 12th. So what happened?
And then they got the 12th, and then they traded with
back
Lions.
up to 6. Yes.
Okay, so the Cardinals moved back, and they also traded a 4th rounder in exchange for a 1st and 2nd round selection
this year and a 1st round.
this year, and then a 1st and 3rd round next year. Excuse, timeout. Texans. Why are we trading a 1st for next year? Because you make that trade with the understanding or with the hope that you will be better and not in the same position for next year that you were like years previous. Sorry? Texans, okay, they got better here.
Well, I think here's the thing, because I still haven't seen confirmation. Remember, they had 2 first-round picks next year, them and the Browns. So you have 2 first-round picks, but the problem is I still don't know.
It's the Texans. It's the Texans.
Was that the Texans pick that they traded?
Yes,
they traded their own first-round pick. Why? That's the only thing I don't like. Why did you trade your own first?
I was like, I'm sorry. Would you? All right, so they get Will Anderson with pick number 3. Totally a DeMeco Ryans pick, and obviously the 3rd, best defensive player in the draft. I mean, people could argue Jalen Carter. I can see that argument, but they get Will Anderson, so they get their main guy of the defense. They get their quarterback. Okay, I mean the rebuild starts now, but I think Will Anderson's gonna be really good in this league, but you gave up a 1st for next year's draft, in which you could have maybe possibly gotten Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah,
to pair along with CJ Stroud.
That's the thing. It's your 1st you gave up, not the Browns' 1st. If the Browns, look, I don't think they'll make the playoffs next year, but I think the Browns will still finish with more wins than them.
Bro, and I'll say this, Cardinals, man, they've had a rough offseason.
That was a W.
Huge W, especially because, if the Cardinals suck, I think they will this season, and you got the Texans pick, and, maybe, you want to move off Murray, and you get Caleb Williams, and then you're in a position to pick Marvin Harrison Jr. Oh my God, I'm getting ahead of myself, but Jesus Christ.
Or they could get a franchise defensive player and Marvin Harrison Jr. next season. That's always an option.
True. That is true. They have options now. I don't know. I mean, look, ultimately, I don't want to consider it an L because the season hasn't started yet, but they got CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. Okay, good for you, Texans. Okay, I'm not going to go through every pick, but we'll talk about some notable ones. Yeah. Anthony Richardson goes to the Colts. I think the first 4 picks in order was how we predicted they would go. I don't know. Is Stu happy about this?
I have not hit him up since, so I gotta reach out to the man.
Okay. Well, look, the Colts, they needed a QB. Clearly, they are high on Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is the...
He's not going to play this season. The whole idea is that he's going to sit for at least a year.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it depends on how the season goes for them. I think maybe they'll play him once playoffs are out of reach for them.
Yeah, maybe the last 4 or 5 games. That's fair.
Yeah. But I like Anthony Richardson. I know it's a high risk, high reward type thing, but I believe in the ceiling for him. I think he could end up being he has the ability to be the best QB in this draft if he pans out the way I think he could. So yeah, I totally understand the Colts going for Anthony Richardson. Seahawks kind of surprised me for this one. They want Devon Witherspoon, or Devin Witherspoon, is it?
Devon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they go Devon Witherspoon. I think they needed pass rushing here, but I also think cornerback was an area of need for them. But I thought pass rushing would kind of be their main priority. But they go Devon Witherspoon, solid pick, one of the best cornerbacks in the draft. So I think the Seahawks have a specific type. I think Pete Carroll likes specific players, and I think he just kind of fit. He might have the highest ceiling, in terms of a cornerback in this draft. So yeah, they beef up, their defense. And look, the Seahawks they had a good draft last year, so I'm not going to question their, who they pick. And we'll talk about their other pick going forward. Yeah. Cardinals at 6, because they traded with the Lions, pick Paris Johnson Jr.
Beautiful.
I think this is a Kyler Murray pick because I think he went to them and said, I want that guy. That's one of the best tackles.
They need a left tackle.
Yeah, I think he's the best tackle in the draft, possibly. Shout out to him. I don't know if Murray's going to be back in time for the start of the season, but that's their tackle for the future, bro. Again, we talk about this, Jurg, how important it is to build up that offensive line. Because what if they do move on from Murray next year, it's always good to have like a generational talent out like your offensive line to kind of like you build upon that. And then of course when you get your eventual quarterback, it's kind of ready for you. The O-line is ready for you. So I mean, no brainer here to get Paris Johnson Jr. The next two picks were kind of surprising to me. So Raiders pick at 7, Falcons pick at 8. Raiders, so they picked Tyree Wilson. I could have sworn they were going to go Christian Gonzalez here.
Yeah, this was confusing. Like I knew Tyree Wilson was going to be top 10, but I was
Raiders?
shocked. Yeah, and just to note real quick, because like again, we're not going to talk every single pick, but Christian Gonzalez eventually falls to the Patriots at 17. Which, good God,
of course he does, bro.
Yeah, why did the NFL give Bill Belichick a guy who's probably going to become a number 1 corner under him? Just why? Like, you didn't need to do that.
It pisses me off. I don't know what the Raiders are doing. Don't you already have pass rushers?
I guess,
aren't they good with Max Crosby and Chandler Jones?
I guess they needed one more.
I don't know, man.
I guess when your cornerback room is so bad, you just think, all right, let's just pass rush, let's just blitz the whole time.
Man, but like, I don't know, man. It's whatever. I'm done kind of understanding Raiders draft picks. Falcons, Bijan Robinson. So look, I'll say this: the Falcons beefed up their defense this offseason. But like, did you really need Bijan Robinson? Don't you have Patterson as your primary running back?
Well, also they drafted a running back last year that ran for 1,000 yards on the team this year. I think a lot of people forget that. At Algier is
something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Tyler Algier. He rushed for over 1,000 yards last season as a rookie. Like what?
This is confusing because like their last top 10 picks, it was Kyle Pitts.
Yep.
Drake London, now Bijan Robinson. I'm like, damn, bro. I mean, don't they need
They are setting up for Caleb Williams or Drake May next season. I'm convinced.
But I don't think they're bad enough to be a number 1 pick for next year's draft.
I think they're getting ready because think about it. Right now, who are 2 teams that we're still expecting to not be great next season? The Cardinals and the Texans. Still, if either of those 2 teams get the first overall pick, and they don't need a quarterback necessarily, I think the Falcons are gearing up to either expect their quarterbacks to not be great this season, because let's be real here for a second, it's Desmond Ridder and Taylor goddamn Heineke.
Bro.
It's either they're expecting those guys to just perform so poorly, or they're getting ready to trade up for the first overall pick next season.
I guess. I don't know. It just confused the shit out of me. I don't understand. Philadelphia Eagles traded with the Chicago Bears. They just swapped places. I think the Bears had 9, Eagles had 10. And I think the Eagles just gave up a 4th round pick for next year. It's either this year or next year. But the Eagles move up and pick Jalen Carter, of course. I think Jalen Carter was the wild card of the draft, but of course he falls to the fucking Eagles. They are just Georgia defense up the wazoo for them. Yeah. Of course they pick Jalen Carter. Of course he goes to the Eagles. That defense gets better. I know they lost some pieces, but I think they just kind of made up for what they kind of lost. He's going to be with some of his teammates from Georgia, and I think they'll kind of ground him. They kind of take him under the wing. I think it's different now when you have people you kind of we're on the same team with and they're a little bit older than you. I think getting into trouble is less of a concern now. You know what I mean?
As a veteran defense, they're not going to let, I promise you, they're going to have Fletcher Cox and Brendan Graham reach out to this kid and make sure he comes to training camp ready. And Jordan Davis, who's on that team, that's one of his boys from Georgia. They're not going to let Jalen Carter, because some people are concerned about him because he showed up to his pro day overweight. I would be highly shocked if the Eagles allow, Jalen Carter to come to training camp unprepared. Those guys, they probably already have reached out to him.
Absolutely. But yeah, this is, of course, again, Eagles, man. That's shout out to them, man. They know how to construct their team. All right. As we go, okay. Detroit Lions.
Disappointing.
Excuse? What are we doing with
F-?
What are we doing there, pal?
F- first round.
And look, this is a pro Lions podcast, by the way. We're big Lions fans here. Bullish.
You know what, Chris? Honestly, this first round made me bearish on them for the season.
Jahmyr Gibbs, who again, I think is a standout player. Do we not have Swift? And who do they?
David
sign?
Montgomery.
What are we doing? How did you not pick Christian Gonzalez here? Okay, I don't understand some teams, bro. I don't understand this. I don't know if this is a Dan Campbell move, but Didn't they trade Okuda to the Falcons?
Yes.
Okay, and I know they made some signings,
Can't name
but
you a
like
single corner on that roster. I have no idea who's there.
it was Cam something? Was it Ben? I
Don't
don't
care.
know.
Don't care.
Okay, yeah,
Can't name a
whatever.
single one.
How do you not pick? And Gonzalez, I thought we mocked them to get Gonzalez at 6, and he's still there when you trade at 12. And I'm like, okay, this is a no-brainer. They got Gonzalez. Detroit Lions are gonna just they're fulfilling the prophecy of being the people's team. And then this happens. I don't understand. I really don't. They have other needs and they pick Jahmyr Gibbs. Whatever, man. I don't want to understand it. Do you have any possible justification towards this
No,
pick?
neither
No.
of their picks. I know what they're
Yeah,
going
they
in
whiffed
order
on the
here.
other one,
They
bro.
whiffed on the other one. F- first round right now for the Lions. I am not saying Jahmyr Gibbs cannot be good. I actually really liked him as my third running back coming into this draft. I think he would have been pretty good in the second round. But I just don't understand when you already have a running back room with two guys. One you drafted a few years ago. Like, I understand DeAndre Swift is due a contract this season, but come on, man. You cannot convince me Jahmyr Gibbs wouldn't have been available for you early second round. You just can't.
Right.
Like that. And look at the guys who got drafted right after him. Lucas Van Ness. Who, okay, let's say hypothetically, for whatever reason, the Lions looked at the tape and said, you know what? We're not fully sold on Christian Gonzalez. Let's just say hypothetically, Chris. You still could have had Lucas Van Ness to improve the pass rush. You still could have added Broderick Jones to shore up the offensive line if you wanted. You still could have had even Emmanuel Forbes as a defensive guy. You could have added Kalijah Cansey, who I know he went from 19 to 12 as a 7-pick difference, but even Kalijah Cansey would have been way more understandable at 12 than this. And look, I like running backs more than some other people. I can't justify this selection at all. And then the Jack Campbell one, he is not. Stu came on twice before our mock and then during the mock. And both times we pointed out the fact that Jack Campbell was not like this class had no definitive first round like inside linebacker. To me, terrible drafting choices right now by Detroit. Like this was a complete whiff.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about them anymore. You really disappointed me, Detroit. Pittsburgh Steelers traded up with the Patriots, and then they picked Broderick Jones with their pick, a pick right before the Jets. And I think the Jets desperately needed Broderick Jones here because I think Skoronski and Darnell Wright went ahead. Paris Johnson, I think, wasn't going to be there anyway, regardless.
Yeah.
Of course, the Steelers pick him, and I think the Patriots just to fuck with us.
Yeah. I'm convinced they did it on purpose.
Yeah, 100%. They knew it. Jets pick Will McDonald the 4th.
That was weird.
Really weird. Here's the thing. I know Jackson Smith Najigba was available. I don't necessarily know if he would have been the right pick. I know he was a popular pick. It's weird because I don't know. There wasn't an offensive tackle that was available for them, and I think that was their most position of need. Will McDonald, here's the thing. I do think the Jets needed help on the pass rushing. Jermaine Johnson, I think, needs a little bit more time, but they did need some pass rushing. But Will McDonald, and I've seen some of like his the athleticism is there. He's like one of the most athletic players in the draft. Kind of, did you need him at 15 though? I feel like it was kind of a reach. You know?
Yeah, it's very much like, and again, to be fair, there was only one more offensive tackle taken after that pick. So from that perspective, the Jets kind of made like they didn't reach for a tackle, which I think was a smart thing to do. But again, like you still could have tried to even improve that defense a little bit more. Again, like you add Christian Gardner. I know Justin praised Reed in your guys' secondary. But Christian Gonzalez and Sauce Gardner would have been,
Jesus.
that would have been a really nice defensive back route together. Or even Emmanuel Forbes. I think Emmanuel Forbes, I know he's at corner right now. I think the Jets could have been a team. You could have converted Forbes to play safety for you guys. I think he's a long-ranging guy who he can make plays. I think other picks could have been made there for the Jets.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. I mean, whatever. I think they have a specific type. I think Salah has a type too. But yeah, I don't think they were going to go offense here. But, I mean, like, in terms of, like, wide receiver and all that and running back. But who knows? They get Will McDonald. I mean, I don't want to, like, shit on the guy either because I think he is talented. But, again, it was, like, a position of need. Just very weird. The Jets were weird. I also think they were trying to trade this pick. But I don't think anyone wanted to trade up. Patriots fucking steal Christian Gonzalez, bro. I fucking hate it. Okay, why did the Commanders not pick Christian Gonzalez?
I must have just been a tape thing. That's the only thing I could think of. Like if you're the Commanders. Maybe a scheme, maybe a tape thing. Like, isn't it really weird that the defensive first coaches had some teams had some weird draft picks here? Like,
Mhm.
Lions with both of their first, Jets with McDonald, which I still think
Not as bad as the Lions.
yeah, oh no, nowhere near. And then the Commanders with picking Forbes. To me, it just has to be a scheme thing that Ron Rivera preferred Forbes over Gonzalez, even though I think Gonzalez has the higher. Who knows? Like it's a really weird thing to say the very least.
Yeah, I don't. Ugh, God damn it, bro. Whatever. Bucks take Elijah Cansey, Jurg. What'd you
Beautiful.
make of that pick?
I love look. I understand some people are like Elijah Cansey is the guy who he mainly shot up because of the combine. I think you just look at the tape. I really like I said, I like Elijah Cansey late in the draft process when it came to the Jets. Not Jets, but just in general. I felt he definitely deserved to be a first round pick. And I think Tampa Bay, to a team that is really rebuilding there, that needs to reposition themselves just as a roster. I think Elijah Cansey was a very nice piece there. He joined Vita Vea in the interior. I think the two of them could be very nice. That Buccaneers defense needs to retool itself. Like they are not the same team. They're not going to be a very veteran-laden team for much longer because I think Levante David's probably in the last year or so of his career, and then Devin White requested a trade. A lot of people forget that. Like the Buccaneers are going to go through changes, and this is a first-round pick that just play. I think they went to draft someone that they believe will definitively start for them day one, and I think that's why they went with Elijah Cansey ultimately. So
Yeah.
I have no issues with the pick.
Okay. The next 4 picks were all wide receivers.
That was a run.
Jackson Smith and Najigbo goes to the Seahawks. Miami Dolphins kind of forfeited their pick. Chargers go Quentin. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Just put it lightly.
When you try to convince Tom Brady to retire and then come back a year later with ownership and for your team,
I'm just going off what Wikipedia said. Los Angeles Chargers go Quentin Johnston. Baltimore Ravens go Zay Flowers. Minnesota Vikings go Jordan Addison. So here's the thing: the Seahawks go JSN. Man, I think it's kind of a steal. And I think a lot of people were surprised that he fell this far. I don't know. I think it's just like, it's kind of like a position of like need here. Now that I think a lot of these teams didn't really need a wide receiver. I mean, you could kind of argue that the Packers needed maybe they love, what's his name? Dobbs. But yeah, I think a lot of these teams didn't really need a wide receiver. And then the Seahawks, I know you have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but Lockett is getting older. And I think JSN adds like a different element to that offense, bro. And I think, look, Geno Smith has weapons now, and the Seahawks are a very underrated team in the NFC. It's kind of an area of need. I just can't rely on Tyler Lockett as much, So I love this for them. I love this for the Seahawks. Shout out to them, bro. Like they're kind of on the come up in the post Wilson era. Like they're kind of ready to win now, and I think they're going for it. And I think this kind of move solidifies it. Chargers, Quentin Johnston, another weapon for Justin Herbert. Did they lose someone in the offense?
It's not. I don't think it's necessarily like. I mean, if they were going to lose someone, people think they might trade Austin Eckler because they couldn't agree to an extension with him. But the thing is that Mike Williams, I think he may have been dinged up a little bit. No. Yeah. Here's the thing: Mike Williams was a little bit dinged up for last season. Like maybe I'm forgetting. I don't think he was necessarily 100% healthy, but he's had issues early in his career up until the last 2 seasons. And Keenan Allen is starting to get a little bit up there in age. Like they're both still really good, but it's that. And I just, again, at the end of the day, I just don't think that the Chargers probably didn't love any of the tight ends there, because if you were going to pick a skill position player for them, I thought it would have been tight end. And maybe they're just like, you know what, we're not going to overdraft someone that we don't think should go here. Let's go for just more. Because, man, Justin Herbert, I don't know if you see this, Chris, recently, clips of, there was a DeAndre Hopkins clip 2 weeks ago, I think, where he named
Yes, I have seen it.
There was a Justin Herbert one where he was naming the
wide receivers he's thrown to.
He was naming guys that the guy that was interviewing him didn't even have on his list. Justin Herbert, they've had injuries there. Quentin Johnson is a very nice insurance policy, and to learn from Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, good God, I think Quentin Johnson, he fell compared to what he was at the beginning of the draft process. I think this is an amazing landing spot for him.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Chargers, man. That AFC West. Oof. All right. Baltimore Ravens, Zay Flowers. Thank God. They won wide receiver here. Look, Lamar's got some weapons now. To put it lightly, I don't want to say confidently, but look, Rashad Bateman's kind of been a wolf because I had high expectations for him, but he's been hurt a lot of the time. OBJ, you never know with him. But I think Zay Flowers here was the right choice. He's the right choice. They needed to get fucking Lamar some weapons. There was a lot of noise about where Hopkins was going to go now. I think Hopkins it's kind of a toss between the Chiefs and the Bills, which is funny. But yeah, this is get Lamar weapons. Thank God. And I like Zay Flowers. I actually think he's underrated here. And then those three teams, I understood why they picked a wide receiver. Jordan Addison to the Vikings.
Remember, they cut Adam Thielen.
They did, but did you really need another wide receiver? I know it's good. You get pressure off.
Yeah.
Jets, but I feel like they needed other areas of need, bro. I don't know. I didn't really understand. I mean, I get it.
Weirdly enough, they could have probably used a Deontay Banks or Miles Murphy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking as well. But I mean, whatever. You want to beef up that offense? Go ahead. I don't really want to make too much of it. But yeah, it was just wide receiver galore after that. And then I think the Giants won Deontay Banks. That was a good pick for them, I think. Yep. Bills traded up to get Dalton Kincaid, beef up that offense a little more. Jaguars, I think I want to talk about this because they got Anton Harrison. This is notable. I think they got him solely because he got suspended for the year.
What are you talking about?
One of their offensive tackles or offensive linemen got suspended for the year.
Really? I know Jawan Taylor, they lost him in free agency to the Chiefs. I don't remember a Jaguars offensive lineman getting suspended.
It literally happened yesterday.
Really?
I think because of substances. Jaguars.
Wow. All right, to be fair, work really had me yesterday, so let me search this up.
No, I got it.
Oh, Cam Robinson.
Yeah, so he's out for the year, I believe.
It just said will be without. It just says start of 2023. He said unspecified amount of games.
Okay, so it's a PED suspension for violation of performance enhancing drug policy.
Oof.
So I think that's why they took Anton Harrison, just because just because he's gonna be out for an undisclosed amount of time. Miles Murphy to the Bengals, really solid pick for them, bro. Fuck, that defense is already dope. Now you get Miles Murphy. Good for the fucking Bengals, bro.
Yeah, I like Miles Murphy,
but he fell pretty
No, I agree. Compared to where we had him, I would have personally gone with Branch from out of Alabama here.
Are you okay?
I think they needed a safety. They lost so much in the secondary this year. I think the Bengals
That's what I thought they were going to go too.
I like Murphy. I want to clarify that. I like Murphy, but I probably would have gone with Branch there.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about Branch after this. The Eagles get fucking Nolan Smith, bro. Oh my god, bro. What is happening? I'm surprised he fell that far, bro. Jesus. Again, the Eagles, man, they're just locked and loaded. But that was the first round. Round 2 is tonight.
And 3. It's 2 and 3.
Oh, 2 and 3. Okay. A little surprised that Branch wasn't picked.
Yep.
I thought again the Bengals lost Jesse Bates, bro. I thought
they lost and Von Bell. They lost both their starting safeties from last year.
It's just I don't.
Back room is Eli Apple.
Oh Jesus Christ! Yeah, I don't understand. But again, I'm not gonna question the Bengals defense. That was been a standout for them. Who also Michael Meyer was also not taken. I was a little surprised at that. Yeah. Do you have any other players besides those two?
Joey Porter Jr. It was a surprise. Honestly, I'm looking at the best player available based off of overall right now. I'm not going to mention the first guy because I think you're going to mention him here, Chris. But Michael Myers number 2. I thought he should have been gone above Kincaid. Joey Porter Jr. to me was shocking. Again, there was a mini run on corners there in the middle of the draft. I'm shocked Joey Porter Jr. didn't go. Again, Brian Branch. I think the Bengals could have taken him. After those top 4, I think everyone else was a fringe first round pick or just definitively a second. Luke Musgrave to me is a second round pick. Hendon Hooker is a second or third round pick. Steve Avila, maybe you could have argued if a team had a need in the interior of the offensive line, I would understand it. And then Keanu Benton to me, second round pick. People were trying to put Darnell Washington in the first round. I think that would have been a massive risk. I think second round for him. And again, this draft just did not have a first round caliber center or too many center/guards there because Osiris Torrance early in the draft process, him and Joe Tippmann were projected first rounders, and now they both fall here to the second. I think the top 4 guys on the list are the only 4 that I think you could say could have and should have gone in Michael Meyer, Joey Porter Jr., Brian Branch, and the one guy you're about to mention, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Chris.
Yeah. Will Levis, not picked. So here's the thing, Jurg. I thought he would get picked eventually in the first. I'm not high on him. I know he has the arm talent, but did you kind of feel bad as the night was progressing?
Yeah, from the perspective of, and also people were making jokes that his girlfriend's going to break up with him
My
on
God,
social
bro.
media,
Oh,
which
that dude has a
y'all gotta
gem.
stop. Y'all gotta
But
like y'all
she's
gotta stop.
gorgeous though, bro. Holy shit.
She
All
is,
right,
but
go
like
ahead.
just leave him alone. Like you guys gotta stop joking about like girlfriends breaking up with these guys. Like that's
Yeah.
not fair to them. Um, I did feel a little bit bad, but man, at the end of the day, like this is just how the draft shapes up sometimes, man. And
Who needs Will Levis though?
well, again, so let's go because I'm gonna be real with you. I never saw him as a first round quarterback in this draft. Not before the season, not during the season, not after the season.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a first round pick, I do not care if I would have needed a quarterback. I wouldn't have picked Will Levis if he was the option available. I personally am not high on him. Look at if you assume guys fall to the back half of a draft class for quarterback. And again, this is the position I talked about this whole NFL half that teams are willing to do this for quarterback. Let's look really quick here at who's picked in the second half of the draft. Christian Gonzalez to the Patriots. They have Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. Like, I don't think they were going to do it. Detroit, you could have maybe made the argument, but clearly I think there were reports earlier in the process that Detroit just didn't see that much in Will Levis, at least not for the first round.
Right.
They go with, I don't know if it's a panic pick or what with Jack Campbell. Again, such a bad pick. But then Buccaneers, I think the Bucs are hoping Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask suck so they could get one of the quarterbacks next year.
Yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, like Geno Smith is the guy right there. I don't necessarily think yes, maybe, but again, they just add a weapon of the future there. Chargers don't need quarterback. Ravens don't need quarterback.
Yeah, like no one needed him, bro.
Minnesota Vikings don't need quarterback. New York Giants, you still need quarterback, but you just paid a guy, so don't need quarterback technically. Bills don't need quarterback. Cowboys don't need quarterback. Jaguars don't need quarterback. Bengals don't need quarterback. Saints, they have Derek Carr. Now, I don't think he's that great, but don't need quarterback. And Eagles and Chiefs obviously don't need quarterback. Like, no one needed a quarterback in the second half of the draft.
Let me ask you this. Because, picking him would be like, okay, he's a backup. Like, that's what the mindset going into it. I'm looking at the second round now.
Yeah.
You think that, like, maybe the Rams?
Well, let me say something here really fast. The Steelers, there's already reports saying the Steelers are very interested in trading away the first pick of the second round.
Yeah.
So I do want to put that out there. But yeah, let's just look at a very brief order here. Steelers, Kenny Pickett's their guy. No. Arizona Cardinals. No. Detroit Lions. Maybe they see him more as a second round guy. Indianapolis Colts. They have their quarterback now.
That'd be funny though.
Maybe the Rams. Maybe the Rams, because at the end of the day, and I guess maybe
getting old.
It's not just that. Remember, he got hurt last season. There was actually at very one brief point, there were concerns if Stafford was going to consider retirement because of the injury. Like, it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility. But again, I think if you're the LA Rams with no first round pick this year, I think next season they'll finally have their first again. And I think they have 2 third-round picks, if I'm not mistaken. The Rams do.
They have other needs, though.
Exactly. It's you just trade away Jalen Ramsey, so you need something in the secondary. You need to build up that offensive line because, honest to God, the offensive line completely failed them last season. You need weapons on that goddamn team because it's just Cooper Kupp and nothing else there. And there's some decent wide receivers here early on. There's Josh Downs, who I think is good. There's the Tennessee wide receivers and Hyatt and Tillman that I think are solid. Or again, if you want to maybe look at the tackle side again, I already mentioned them earlier. I think Bergeron and Mock are both pretty good selections. Or if it's more guard, Avila's there. Like they're Osiris Torrance. Just saying. There's some really good players here. So I'm just looking at the early part. And again, you go back to the Seahawks. I mean, maybe at 37 overall, they consider it. The Raiders at 38, maybe. I mean, Josh McDaniels and rookie quarterbacks don't necessarily have an elite history, but sure. Carolina Panthers
Titans at 41, maybe?
Titans at 41, maybe. But again, do you want back-to-back years of Ryan Tannehill having to say he's not going to mentor a young quarterback? The Green Bay Packers at 42, the Jets at 43. Obviously not. The Jets would be funny. But the Falcons at 44. It's just I don't see it. I'm not seeing a above 75-80% chance of any team in the second round needing to draft him. I'm just not. I'm not saying it won't happen to the kid because I don't know if you got the notification here, Chris. He's not attending night 2 of the draft, which
I don't blame him.
I wouldn't do that either. I wouldn't want to get dunked on by the internet for the rest of the night either. Even though I think he should get picked tonight because it's the second and third round, so I think he should be getting picked. But yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't take a risk on a quarterback in the second or third round. I think Will Levis, at this point, could be really good value. But there were things that I think turned people off. And at the end of the day, Chris, I think people saw what the Jets did 2 years ago and they learned. I'm sorry. To me, Levis is baby Zach Wilson as of this moment. Yeah. And at the end, and hopefully he doesn't cheat on his girlfriend. But at the end of the day,
I wouldn't cheat on that girlfriend.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But at the end of the day, with quarterbacks, if you don't think they're your guy, don't overdraft. And that's what Stu said during the mock. if you're not convinced, definitively convinced that they're your guy, whether it's the tape, the combine, the interview, don't pick them at the end of the day. Just don't select them in the first round if you think that's going to burn a pick. And look, they're probably going to get some value here. Like these teams, again, the Seahawks could still use a young quarterback. The Lions could still use a young quarterback there. Now they use their picks in the first round. Well, one of them used their picks in the first round to properly build their team up a little bit more. Like, I know it sucks. And I do love, again, this is one of the many reasons why Sauce Gardner is amazing. He tweeted at Will Levis to keep his head up.
Yeah.
That, things are going to work out for him. So I think if you're Will Levis, obviously last night sucked. And I know a lot of people have gone back and forth about you. I know I haven't necessarily been the biggest fan of him, but I think this might be better for him going in the second or third round for his career. Like, I know money-wise, it's obviously a massive drop. And I from that perspective, I feel bad because when guys lose money in the draft, I do feel bad for them. But I think from a team that will nurture him perspective, I think from that type of deal, I think this will actually be good for Will Levis.
Yeah. I feel like night 2 is going to be a little bit more interesting. There's a lot of people that dropped that I didn't think would. Just wow. But look, Hopkins still needs to be moved. Who knows? You never know. I hope and expect that there will be more movement in round 2 and 3. Yeah. But I gotta say, man, draft time is always a fun time. It's always a fun time. Well, that'll do it for this week. What a week! What a stack of episodes that we recorded. This is a hefty one. This was a hefty one for sure. And this is without Dane, by the way. Imagine if we did have Dane.
Oh God.
Would have gone like 3 hours maybe. But yeah, Jurg, where can they find us on the socials?
Guys, you already know you can follow us at SomewhatSports, where we have been very, very up to date when it comes to the polls in the NHL and the NBA playoffs. The best part about the playoffs continuing to move on is that it's less polls to put up, and we know our social media guy is very happy about that. But in all seriousness, follow us at SomewhatSports to get latest updates. There's always posts whenever it comes to the episodes being out. We know it's a little been a bit slow with the post recently, but trust me, the offseason is coming up. The NFL, eventually we're going to get to offseason grades with the NFL and picking our division winners for next season. So there's going to be posts about that. There's always constant activity here on the Instagram page, and of course with the IG page. That leads you to this beautiful program that you're listening to with your ears. It is Somewhat Spaced in Sports on YouTube and Spotify. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube. Please give us 5 stars on Spotify. Give us a follow. Let us know what you love about the show. Let us know what you want us to talk about more. Do any segments you guys want? Any more games that you guys want? Trust us. The return of the NFL season, crowns and clowns, that's definitely going to be something exciting for us. I would love if we could try to develop something in the offseason. I think that would be a cool thing. But overall, we are here for you guys. We're here to make the show entertaining as heck, because at the end of the day, this is a podcast for the people, by the people, built, created during the depths of the pandemic. And we have all gotten past that and join us on the continuation rise of the show because, Chris, I know the weather's terrible outside. The weather outside is frightful, but soon the summer months will be delightful. And the summer of 2023 will be the summer of the Somewhat Sports Podcast.
Beautifully said as always, Jurg. Beautifully said as always. Can never compete with that. To all the listeners listening, if you made it this far, we appreciate you. And until next time, the peace.